out there committing the crimes to try to alleviate and try to direct them in other places. And so this guy was smoking a cigarette, and those who know me, they know I have an issue with smoking. I mean, I believe in trying to live a healthy life. And I said to him, first, take the cigarette out your mouth. Second, I said, what is going to take you to get off at this corner? Now, does that mean I had 10 seconds or that's it? 5. Okay, thank you. I said, what is it going to take you to get you off this corner? He said, back in 2006, I had a welding license. I left a certificate somewhere. I said, all right, what school did you get it at? I said, okay, give me your contact. I'm not going to do it for you, but I will work with you to get that welding license so that you can get a real job, so that you can take care of yourself and your family. We've got to show each other love. We've got to go on that corner, which I do, even not being in public office, not even running. I work in this city all over, and I know I can do what it takes to move the city forward. Working with young people, getting them to understand when you have systems and they work, you build on those systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dixon. Next up is Mike Jensen. Mike Jensen.
Hallelujah! I think that's appropriate in church, don't you? That's where we are. I'm Mike Jensen. I'm Deputy Commander Chaplain, Baltimore City Fire Department. Where's Mary Pat? Well, I believe I'm the longest serving public servant in Baltimore City. I'm not only a servant, was a fighter for Baltimore City Fire Department for almost 50 years, and also a leader in the Baltimore City Fire Department. I'm here because I love my Baltimore. It's my Baltimore. I was born in Baltimore almost 71 years ago. Met my wife on Baltimore Street at the Lord Baltimore Movies. My firstborn was born on Baltimore Street at Barnes-Secular Hospital. I was a boxing promoter in Baltimore. My boxing organization was called Baltimore's Best Boxing. Born here at 1815 Nickel Street. 1815 Nickel Street. And I'm here now. Yes, in Baltimore. and I'm proud of Baltimore. Yes. I'll laugh with you, but guess what? There's a lot of people out here crying here, brother. It's not a time to be laughing. I've seen more death than most. One of the police commissioners said he's never seen anything like somebody get burned up. I've been to the vacant dwelling fires. When I got there, it wasn't vacant, and it wasn't no fire. It was the bodies burning in there. It's not funny. It's time to get serious. Time to come together and make it better. We're better than this. We're better than this. I know I don't have a lot of time, and I do have a crime plan. A crime plan. I don't have time to take it all, but I have it all in writing. You can see it before you leave here tonight. But the first thing I would say about the crime plan is we need crime prevention. Crime prevention. Crime control. Crime control. We can do that.
Thank you.
Together, I will be the people's mayor.
Thank you.
For all the people. I made a commitment beyond self. I'm fired up.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm ready to go. Hallelujah.
Thank you. Next up is Ralph Johnson. Ralph Johnson.
First of all, I'd like to thank God Almighty for allowing me the opportunity to be here today. It's a wonderful, wonderful day. My name is Ralph E. Johnson, Jr., and I'm running for mayor of the great city of Baltimore. Born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. Served my country 8 years in the United States Army. I'm a retired corrections sergeant at Baltimore City Jail. Shout out to BCDC. And I've been a critical analyst of City Hall for the last 7 years, correspondence. And more importantly, I do not receive any money from any status quo entities because as mayor, I have to have the freedom to serve the citizens of Baltimore without being beholden to corporate executives. Now we talk about crime and murder, but we never talk about the socioeconomic conditions that create crime and murder. My administration intends to put in place a socioeconomic infrastructure that's conducive to progressive behavior, a decent quality of life, and upward mobility. That being said, we have to stop the systemic, pervasive, pay-to-play corruption that's running rampant in City Hall and compromising our leaders' ability to serve all the citizens of Baltimore. We all know that Baltimore is a tale of two cities, the have and have-nots. That's because our local government and private industry are notorious for neglecting certain segments of our society and investing in others. Now, I will be the very first one to say anyone that breaks law in our city must be held accountable to the full extent of the law. But leaders who create the conditions of law breaking by neglecting low-income communities, lying to their constituents, and being corrupt to the core must be held accountable as well. Because we all know, the communities with the most crime and murder are the same communities with the least allocated funding, the least resources, the least capital improvement. If you want to change a person's behavior, you have to change their socioeconomic conditions. Crime prevention has to be just as important as being tough on crime. In other words, if you treat across town like you treat downtown, we will reduce crime and murder overnight. My aim is to demolish the socioeconomic blueprint of systemic segregation and economic inequity that has many Baltimoreans living in third world conditions. Conditions of anguish and frustration and desperation and hopelessness, all of which culminates into the crime and murder that we see today. Now they call these areas hotspots, but hotspot is nothing more than a euphemism for concentrated poverty and lack of opportunity. My aim is to equally invest in all of Baltimore's 14 city districts with equity, transparency, and accountability.
Thank you.
God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Next up will be Dante Swinton. Dante Swinton.
All right, everyone, my name is Dante. We're 52 years removed from Dr. King's assassination, and in those 52 years, we have failed to achieve his dream. And I'm running because I want to be a part of actually achieving that dream. Over the last 4 years, we spent $2 billion on policing alone. Now, I don't know about you, but Dr. King's dream was not one day, we're going to arrest everybody. And that's more per person than Chicago, more per person than New York on our city, and obviously it isn't working. So instead of doing that, my Peace Zones policy actually allocates $72 million in additional funding to revamp 1,200 homes every year for affordable housing. It involves $18 million in small business grants so that way people can lift these communities up. It involves $18 million in rec center funding, $18 million in complete streets so these communities can have protected bike lanes and safer roads, $12 million in permeable and ADA accessible sidewalks, $12 million in mental health facilities, and $9 million every year and towards community-owned grocery stores. That's how you build a community. That's how you end crime. Now, I also want to reallocate $83 million out of the police budget for our education system. That means actually providing funding for for actual resources in these schools, for new teacher hires, for increased pay, for mental health counselors, and programming. But not only that, I want to invest in a zero waste economy in the city. Right now, our recycling rate is 15%. If we could hit 70%, that would be 4,000 full-time new jobs in Baltimore. Think of the impact of 4,000 jobs on families in this community and beyond. But I also want to expand the Charm City Circulator beyond where it currently goes, put more money into it so that way it goes into the Black Butterfly, that way it goes to Park Heights, that way it goes to Curtis Bay and Cherry Hill. And Cherry Hill where the buses are based, but they can't even use it because it doesn't serve there. So that's something I want to deal with. But I don't want to wait 10 years to cut the property taxes. I want to cut the property taxes by 25% in my first year. I also want to improve air quality and fight climate change because climate change and violence are connected. The hotter it gets, the more irritable people get, and the more likely you're going to end up with violence in the city. So if we don't fight that, we're not going to deal with the violence issue as well. But also, someone talked earlier about the need for affordable housing and rent controls, what I advocate for. So a 4% increase, not something where you can go 30%, 50%, 100% every year on someone and push them out because you want someone happens to make more money. Actual rent control. But not only that, people talk about needing to get rid of the Board of Estimates. I want to do that. I also want to make sure that it's the mayor, the entire city council, but also we need to establish participatory budgeting. So every April, you all who are registered to vote are able to vote on the budget yourself. So that way you have the ability to say where our money goes every single year. Last but not least, I volunteer at the city's Rape Crisis Center turnaround, and I believe that we need to face domestic and sexual violence head-on in this city. There are so many folks that reach out to us and need those resources, which means not only do we need a comprehensive sex ed program in our high schools and our middle schools that teach healthy relationships, consent, and the like, but we also need to make sure we have the resources appropriated to folks in need. So once again, if we're not engaging these communities, we're not actually achieving the dream of Dr. King, and I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next up will be Mary Washington. Mary Washington.
Hello everyone, I'm Mary Washington, and I want to be your next mayor. And I truly, truly believe deep in my heart that I have the experience, the strength, and the hope to bring us to a place where we need to be. I know that while I love this city, I love this room, I've represented you for years, we have built playgrounds, we have done wonderful things together. But I am very, very frustrated by the false promises from the old leadership that things will change. I am very, very frustrated at the utter failure of our families, and that there are families that have to bury their children and that they have to explain to their children about a rising death toll. Our institutions fail them because we don't invest in public education and we don't invest in job opportunities to end economic despair. As your state senator, many of you are familiar with who I am and the work that I've done for our district. Last year, in terms of addressing economic justice, we passed the Water Taxpayer Protection Act and ended the practice of the city selling people's homes for unpaid water bills. That will no longer happen in Baltimore City. Yeah, you can clap for that. That's a good thing. Yesterday, I and my colleagues have made a commitment that we're going to make sure that we reimagine re-entry and get a pre-release center for women in the state of Maryland, because there are none. I've also fought relentlessly for ending homelessness and for community schools and for greener cities and for improvement of our lives. I've always chased the work. And I don't know why I'm so nervous, because I should know you, but I think this is what it's so important. It's not about running for mayor. It wasn't about running for Senate. It wasn't about running for the House of Delegates. It was about the work. I've always been about making sure that our communities have what they need. I've always been committed to offering myself to move our communities forward. You know, we need to get the basics right. We need to make sure that we are Thank you. We need to make sure that we have a public safety approach that is tough, smart, and effective. We need to make sure that we have excellent public education. We need to make sure that we have development that benefits us all. We need to invest in our resources wisely. And I asked you to go to my website at marywashingtonforbaltimore.com and look at the public safety plan that I have. It's actually a community engagement plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's to engage all of you to be a part of the process. I look forward to continuing to talk more about it.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker for the candidate for mayor is Lori Fusha.
Hi, my name is Liri. I'm from Albania, and my name has a big meaning in Albania. When we destroyed the communism, the people went in the streets calling Liri democracy, and the means is freedom. So all we want freedom. I'm running for mayor because I have a dream, and this dream didn't came today or a week before that I signed. I've been working in Baltimore City. I was a member for Waverly, and always I raised my concerns. And my dream is to end homeless. Every time I came from Washington, D.C., that I was working for Johns Hopkins, I would see people sleeping on the manhole, shaking in the ice, in the cold weather. Ladies and gentlemen, this is America. Should never happen. See people sleeping in the streets and see mansion that people live on and they don't care. I see in the TV that media would advertise more about dogs, shelter the dogs, and would do not shelter those kids that they are maybe without parents, or who knows what their problem is. Now, my question was always, what are you going to do to reduce this homeless? My answer was, we bring billions of dollars towards the shelters and the homeless, but they have a mental issue and still will be in the street. I disagree. If they have a mental issue, put them in medication, not living in the street. So, I ran for mayor to, I have a plan how to end this homeless. I want to purchase the middle school in Waverly. My plan was in first floor for medical adult daycare, and second floor for community. They want some space. And the other part I want for children to have a music and a dancing, so that we can occupy those young kids they are in the street.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, good evening. My name is James Hugh Jones II, and I'm running for mayor because I believe that a mayor should lead by example. I want to ask a question. How many of you, and maybe not all of you, but how many of you remember Donald Schaefer when he was mayor? Let me see your hands. How many of you believe that Donald Schaefer did a good job when he was mayor? Let me see your hands. Don Schaefer was the type of mayor who was visible. Don Schaefer worked with communities and the people in the communities. So, as your mayor, what I want to do is I want to establish a relationship with you, the people. I believe that the people should be able to make decisions for where they live. I believe that people should be able to make decisions as to how their children are educated. We talk about crime, and I know crime is a big thing. I know it is. But in order to resolve crime, we're going to have to just get into the root of what's causing crime. And that is the mental health issue. We're going to have to deal with the mental health issue. We got to be realistic about where we are right now, because we've had 8 years of crime, murders. I don't think none of us want to go through that again. So we're going to have to be very sure about the person that we elect to be our next mayor. And as I said before, we're going to have to get to the root. There's some situations going on, and I know that all of these candidates here, they have concerns and they want to see Baltimore City change. But the only way that this city is going to change is that the people and the mayor must have a relationship. I would not want to be mayor and do this job because I don't want you to put the burden of the city on my shoulders without you being a part of it. And that's what's missing. You see, accountability starts with all of us, not just one person. We want to see one person change, but we can't depend on one person to change this city. We're all going to have to do it together. And if you're not ready to do that, then you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. I want to work with you. I want to be a visible mayor. The first 120 days in City Hall, I want to visit each and every community. I want to know what the problems are, because that's how they're going to be resolved. I want to put liaisons in every community. That way, the problem is not heard of or told about months later. So I know a lot of you saying, hey, what is this guy talking about? I'm talking about unity with you, the people. I want to be a mayor that's going to serve the people. I don't want to sit in City Hall. I want to be out in the community, working with you, resolving the problems that you have, bringing resources to all the areas, because I know that we all have something that we want done. But anyway, I'm asking you to vote for me. You know, I'm a people person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the candidates' 3-minute selection. We're going to go to questions and answers now. We line it to